Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of our Meeting the Authors for the Fairy Tales, Folklore, and Fables Reimagined anthology series. Today, we've got Michael La Ronn with us. Could you introduce yourself, Michael?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Michael La Ronn. I'm the author of over 100 science fiction and fantasy and self-help books for writers. I write a lot of stuff all across the board, and I'm delighted to have two stories, potentially, one story for sure, another story as a stretch goal in this compilation or anthology. And you can learn more about me at michaellaronn.com.
Awesome. So, speaking of your stories, why don't you tease like your primary story here, A Baby's Love?
Yeah, A Baby's Love is a story about a charming toddler with a dangerous secret. And it follows the folklore of Fey changelings. And so the main character is a toddler, but he's not quite a toddler. He's something a little bit more, something inside of the toddler that I guess you guys have to read the story to find out. But let's just say this toddler has some superpowers in addition to making all the ladies swoon and all the gentlemen make a salute. He's got some other things up his sleeve as well.
Awesome. And what about your stretch goal story? Do you want to tease that a little bit too?
Yes, so the stretch goal story is The Only Home I'm Welcome To. That's the title. And that follows a 21-year-old girl who has never met her birth mother, and she's spent her entire life growing up in the fairy world because unfortunately because of changeling lore, she was one of those babies that was taken away and taken to the fairy world, and grew up her entire life in the fairy world. And at the age of 21, the fairy queen allows her to come back to the world of humans. And so she comes back to find her birth mother, and what happens is stranger than fiction.
And so there's a lot of Fae and some changeling fun going
Yes.
on. What is it about that appeals to you?
Yeah, I was going through when we were looking at different mythology and lore for this anthology. That one jumped out at me, and I guess the reason it jumped out at me is because it's such an interesting what if question. So a changeling is historically, there's a lot of different variations on it, but it's historically a fae that gets swapped in for a baby. So a couple has a baby, and the Fae take that baby back to their world and they swap it with something that looks like a baby, but is not a human. So sometimes the changeling turns into clay. Other times it grows up to be an evil version of whatever person it was. And so I just thought that was really interesting, like to ask that what if question. And wouldn't it be interesting if I told a story in A Baby's Love, for example, from the perspective of a changeling, as opposed to the perspective of the parents who are horrified to find out that they've got a changeling? What would that be like, and what sort of problems would they face? And the opposite is also true with The Only Home I'm Welcome To. What would it be like to be that child that was taken away? And what would that be like to come back to a world that you belong to, but that you've never really known about and only dreamed about until now?
Awesome. So fairy tales, folklore, fables. Growing up, is there any other lore or fairy tales that maybe appeal to you as a child?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of. There's two that jump out. The one, I've always been a fan of the morality in fables. I grew up reading Aesop's fables, and all the fables with animals and things like that, and just the fact that it tries to teach you some sort of a moral lesson. And I didn't do that with these stories. They're far more ambiguous, but I just always thought that was interesting, and it's always something that jumped out at me. And also, I've always been a fan of like alternate worlds, like people living in this world, but like you pass them on the street and you think it's just a regular person, but they're living in a completely different galaxy. And that's always been appealing to me. And so I just kind of combine those together. And I've written about Fae a lot. And so I wanted to try to write something about Fae that was different than what I've written in the past. So I took a different angle with this story to try to make my Fae writing more three-dimensional.
Are these Fae stories, are they connected at all in any of your other worlds, or are they brand new world setting?
These are brand new. So this is a brand new world. And if readers like it, I might return to it. Could be fun. I had a lot of fun writing the stories.
So for the Kickstarter, we're doing for the anthology. We have a lot of, besides stretch goals, we also have some stretch goal rewards. And you are going to be doing one of those rewards. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I've done quite a few Kickstarters, and one of the things that I like to do is I like to do audio commentary. So I'm willing to just get behind a microphone and talk for 5 minutes about some of the things that influence the stories. So where did they come from? What are some of the references I was thinking about? What was going through my head when I wrote a particular scene? Maybe some of the most memorable scenes in the story, that sort of thing. Just as a bonus for readers, if they like the stories, they can learn a little bit more about how they were created.
Before we go, is there any other projects you've been up to? Which I imagine so. You got like 160 something. So I feel like you're doing lots of stuff at once. What are you up to right
Oh,
now?
I've only got about 2,000 projects that I'm working on right now, but
Oh, that's it.
the
Okay.
big, yeah, just 2,000, just 2,000. If it was 2001, I'd explode. But 2,000 projects I'm working on. But the one that I think is most important is I have a series of urban fantasy. It's called The Good Necromancer, and I just finished book 6 in the series, and I ran a successful Kickstarter on that. And I'm all the Kickstarter folks got that book a few months ago. Now I'm going to be publishing it wide for the whole public. And so 6 books in the Good Necromancer series. It's a series about a necromancer who uses his powers for good to fight all the things that go bump in the night. And I just happened to like that. I think it was kind of a fun to turn that trope on its head. And so I'll be releasing book 6, Any Lich Way, here very soon on all retailers, wherever you buy your books.
Awesome. Yeah, I was one of those Kickstarter backers. I got the full 6 pack. So and one of your in Tales of Monstrosity, one of your short stories was in that setting. So um, in case anybody wants to check that out, or maybe already has that anthology book. Okay, so where can people find you online?
If you'd like to check out my fiction, you can find that at michaellaronn.com. And for those who dare, who are bold and intrepid, and you happen to be writers yourself and you want some writing advice, you can find me and all the books that I have for writers at authorlevelup.com.
All right, and everybody can check out the Kickstarter over at you can go to cabotcrossing.com if you want to check that, or any of the previous books that we published. And that Kickstarter launches July 9th, so it should be out at this point. And so please consider backing us, making that project happen. And your stretch goal story also happen. Turn it, and if we get all the stretch goals, we get to turn this into 2 volumes, which is pretty cool. All right, well, thanks so much, Michael, for being on, and talk to you later.
Thanks.